My friends, I am so fortunate to have someone on the show today who I admire, my beautiful friend, Angela. Please introduce your wonderful self to the audience.
Oh, hi, audience. But Angela Dash, pronouns she, her, and I wear many hats. One, I'm the founder and president of the PACE Institute. And in that, the whole mission is to help organizations and individuals to just strengthen relationships. And the mission is strengthen relationships and setting a course in times of conflict, change, and opportunity. And with my many hats, I am an organizational ombuds, which is someone who supports people in an organization to manage conflict. I'm an executive and professional coach. I train, I facilitate, but the thread in all of that actually goes back to that mission of helping people strengthen relationships and set the course in times
Wow.
of conflict, change, and opportunity. So I'm a helping professional. I actually see myself as a helping professional.
I love that so much. And in one of those, you're so humble because in one of those things which is where we met through a training where I was trained by you and so impressed with your work. And which is why I have you here on the show because managing conflict is a strengthening relationship is a big topic for everybody, right? Personally and professionally. So let's lean into that because that's what we were talking about in the green room, Angela, this need for compassion. Let's talk about a little bit more about your work.
Yes. You know, I talk to people one-on-one every
Mm.
week. I'm helping organizations, I'm helping individuals in organizations, and and even in context with, talking to people outside of the organizational context. And I've come to learn that people are yearning for more compassion and
Mm.
more compassion in the workplace in particular. This and COVID really highlighted
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
emphasized that need, that longing, that void. And actually, people started to demonstrate it during COVID. But that was a crisis event that we all were experiencing. But it highlighted that one, people are capable of showing that compassion, but two, that people so much need it. But in my conversations with whether it's a coaching client or whether it's someone in an organization trying to manage conflict, people are longing to be understood. People are
Sure.
longing to feel safe to be vulnerable. And people are longing to take care of others and be taken care of in the
Mhm.
workplace.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. It provides that connection that we lost during that pause, if you will, when we were home alone. So we had a sense of loneliness. We didn't feel supported. We wanted to support. It's this, you know, it's us being human, right? In trying to do this. But so what can we offer then, Angela? Maybe something to think about as an individual and then as a corporation of how we can show more compassion and demonstrate that.
Yes. First, I think what we can offer is ourselves the acknowledgement that that we want this, that this is a need.
Mm,
It's a need to have our humanistic needs met. That is a need. To acknowledge that and to know that there's no separation of that need from the workplace or outside of the workplace. I think the old school way of thinking is that at work it's all about business.
mm,
It's not relational, it's transactional. And that's an old school way of approaching the workplace
yeah,
and acknowledging that we need more than that. We
yeah.
need more than that. And actually, to foster change in organizations, to create an organization where there's well being for the organization and the people. And if the people aren't well, the organization isn't going to be well.
Amen.
And the organization may appear well in the short term, but in the long term, the organization is not going to be well if the people aren't well. And I think acknowledging that this is critical. It's a critical business need. It not only is it's a critical human need, but it's a critical business need. So to acknowledge that, and just like any other intentions that an organization just sets, this should be one.
Right.
And so that acknowledgement and that intentionality around it, and it also takes leaders modeling vulnerability and openness.
Sure.
And I think that that is really key. I remember facilitating a group, a series of groups, but one particular group that I remember, this was a few years ago, and I was a part of this cadre and where I was facilitating dialogue regarding race. And it was one organizational group, and they were talking about what they needed. And this was after George Floyd, during COVID, and it was a lot of rawness going on. And
Sure.
I remember the employees in this group said, we want our leaders to be more vulnerable, to say, we want them to say, this is what I'm struggling with. We want them to say, we see that this is what you're struggling with. And together, we're going to work toward this. To
Wow.
be able to admit the shortcomings, but to show the confidence that and the intentionality that we're going to work through it. But to recognize the pain that people experience,
Sure.
that people experience.
Yeah. What I love, so many things, what I love about what you said. And it seems as if, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's important to create this culture and environment of safety. Safety in expressing our vulnerability, safety in it's okay for the leaders to show it. In fact, I really want them to show it. Creating this safe space, because I think that is something that, you know, with the anxiety of what happened in March of 20, right? When that started, we lost our sense of safety and we started getting anxious about what's to come, right? There were a lot of unanswered questions. And now moving forward, it's still even more relevant and important to create that safety net. Would you agree?
I agree. I agree. And within that safety, if there's not, because people can feel safe to speak up, to yell, but within that safety, to also practice compassion, to practice compassion within that, to and I want to say this even about cancel culture, right? Which I think is not compassionate,
That's
is
right.
not compassion. And compassion, I believe, also is being able to believe that people can change and to support them in change. And I think of course, cancel culture happens in our society. We see it on Twitter,
Everywhere.
social media,
Yeah.
but I believe it happens in organizations too. Now, it's important that people are accountable, of
Yeah.
course.
Sure.
But I believe that even when people make mistakes, that compassion is very important for people's growth, to support their growth and understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, and healing, and as
And
well as
healing.
healing for the
Yeah.
people who have been harmed.
Yep,
Yes.
indeed. Well, it starts at the individual level, and it's the awareness of all the things that have changed and just wanting to be a better person with that compassion, right? Leveling off whatever it may take in the healing or forgiveness or whatever it is. But it is so important that we recognize this today just to live a happy and joyful life. Because what's happened, I think maybe what we've realized is there's a fine line, if any now, between work or personal and professional, right? The two are intertwined. And now what we're saying is, yes, let's bring that person into the professional and show who we are and all that we can do and understand and move forward, right? It's just understanding and integrating that there doesn't really need to be a separation because we're doing what we can in our best selves,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And the thing is, the person has always been there,
Mm.
but people are wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
Even,
Mm.
for example, just say that manager, right, who who may be that, and I don't mean just, your regular tough manager who, has these expectations and standards. I mean, that manager who just really makes people feel bad.
Yeah.
People leave, go home. And when I say leave, I know a lot of things are virtual and remote now, but they log off, right?
Right.
And
Right.
for the rest of the day, they are having anxiety because of a particular management style, or
Yeah.
maybe the style of interaction with a colleague. And but the people, even that person, the people who are behaving in that way, who's impacting people in this adverse way, they may have on a mask.
Right.
Maybe they don't feel safe to be vulnerable, to say what they need, because a lot of times that's symptomatic of people being scared.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
scared. And maybe there's an organizational culture that promotes that, or maybe there's a societal reason that promotes that. But to help people to be human so that people can even say, you know what, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Or for people to know things don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I think there are certain elements in an organization that makes it hard for people to see that we're people,
Yeah.
that we're actually people, we're human.
We're human, we're people.
Mm.
I love your work so much. So if we were to offer one thing then to the listeners who are listening to your wisdom and all, let's be more compassionate, let's share our vulnerability. What one other thing can we share in helping us move forward as we wrap up the year and get ready for next year? What can we focus on, Angela?
To make space
Hmm.
for open dialogue,
Hmm.
make space to show an interest in what's important to your colleagues, to your direct reports, to actually make space to listen without reacting, but to listen with the heart, to really understand, to listen with the heart of non-judgment. And it doesn't mean you have to agree, but to listen, to really understand. I'm a coach. I'm also a coach educator. And I think having coaching skills in an organization is very important. I think
Yes.
even starting with leadership, because even coaching teaches you to be open, to be curious, to,
Yep.
to show empathy and acknowledge people's needs and insights. And to, before you try to change somebody's mind, to first understand their
Yes.
current condition and perspective. Those are the type of things that a coach learns. And I
Hmm.
think it's so important for leaders to actually to adopt that as a skill, to be intentional about acquiring skills that will allow them to nurture an environment that way, to
Yeah.
model that type of environment.
Well, that was perfection. Let's make space. I love that so much. Angela, and all of this incredible work that you get to do and all these places that you get to go to, do you have a favorite piece of clothing or accessory that you take with you, and how does it make you feel?
I do. I have a stack of, I don't have it on today. I have
Okay.
a stack of beaded bracelets, like they're
Kind of
kind
like
of
this.
elastic. Yes, yes, yes,
Right here. Yep.
yes. I have a stack of them. Some of them I found at thrift stores. I love thrift stores.
Mhm.
Most of them I've actually found at thrift stores. One of them, my partner, he gave them to me. One of them came from my school's gift shop.
Uh-huh.
But it's something about them I just love. I feel when I wear them, I feel free. Like whenever I'm going out of town, especially if I'm going to somewhere tropical, I make sure to bring them. But even if I have on, it doesn't matter what I have on. When I put it on, I just feel free and happy, and it's something about it. I don't know. It's
Well,
something
I
about
love
it.
it. It's the
Mhm.
feeling. That's okay. Sometimes
Yes.
there aren't words for all those feelings, and I love it.
Yes.
Which, and you described exactly why I wear mine. So I have like 10. So it's too much to wear 10 at a time. So I'll just pick five, whatever colors are today, and that's what today is. But I feel you. Like it does make me feel free and just like, oh, look what I have on. They're like positive energy bracelets or whatever. So
Yes. That's how I feel. Yes.
yeah, I love that answer so very much. Well, I've loved our time together. And if someone wanted to continue the conversation with you, Angela, where's the best place for them to find you?
AngelaDash.com. Dash is spelled out DASH, not a
Be-
hyphen.
I love
Angela
that.
Dash
I
dot
love that.
com.
Perfect. What I'll do to make it easy for the listeners, I'll put a link in the show notes so they can find out more about this incredible work that you're doing in service. I am so grateful for you and our time together, Angela. I hope you have an amazing day.
You as well. Thank you.